Today, we'd like to discuss a rather serious subject that also takes place in spring. September, October, wonderful as they are, happy as they are, often herald a very serious topic, the topic of suicide. Did you know that more people are prone to suicide in these months than at other times in the year? Today, we'd like to welcome Lorraine Mitchell. Here's the thing I'm picking up, that we should be observant and we not overly concerned, but we should observe and not dismiss signs, especially if they present more than once.
Exactly.
So we're seeing a trend here of withdrawal, of down spirits, or of moodiness perhaps.
Completely. So very often with depression and suicidal thoughts is a low mood, because the underlying emotion is hopelessness and helplessness. So I don't see that I have a future. So so my emotional space is very teary. I'm sad, I'm depressed, I'm despairing. It's almost like I'm in this pit, and the pit is so dark and there's no light, and it's damp and smelly, and it's really, that's the devastating place that I'm in. So when what we have to be doing is observing. And the reason we miss sometimes is because maybe as a Christian we feel like suicide doesn't even enter into my frame of reference. So if I'm a counselor, I'm counseling you, and you're talking about all these signs, I won't even hear it, because for me, suicide will never be an option for me, so I wouldn't even consider it for you.
Right.
And it's the same with parents. Very often parents, they go through such incredible self-blame after a child has completed suicide. But what happens is that there's no ways that we as parents think that my child will complete a suicide.
Well, you're right.
That's not even a thought that enters into our mind. So even though those warning signs are all there, most times, 9 times out of 10, that parent will tell me, but I didn't see them. I did not see those warning signs.
Is it more of a gender situation? Tend to be more men or women commit suicide?
Well, the statistics and what we know is that women attempt suicide more than men, because women generally struggle with depression more than men do.
Right.
So there's statistically, for every man that attempts suicide, there's 4 women that attempt suicide. But the number of completed suicides is higher in men. And that is because of the method that they choose. So the means would be they would hang themselves or they would shoot themselves. So much more aggressive and violent and efficient. So men are more successful, but women, the attempts are higher. And I also am not even sure again that our statistics are right, because even when I was working in the clinic, I would work with the young adults, and we would talk a little bit about suicide and about depression, and many of the young people would say to me, they took an overdose of whatever they had in the house the night before, they got into bed, and they woke up, and they put on their school uniform and went to school. So for me, I also think that our unreported suicide, and they would say to me that no one had known, they wouldn't have said anything to anyone at that point.
That is very concerning.
Very much so.
For our whole community. How many of us are suffering in silence? So are there any other signs? So somebody withdraws.
So they might be saying things like, oh, you know what, my mom would be better off without me. Or I just can't take this anymore. And what I hear often is, I'm just so tired. I just cannot get up in the morning and face another day. So those are the things we're listening out for. And also when there's a kind of talking a lot about suicide, so there's almost a idolizing of that choice of death. We want to hear what people might be saying. And yes, they might just be having a bad day, but we have to take it in the context of everything that we're hearing. Then the other is, what are we sensing? What is the emotion? So it's the low mood, the sadness, the crying a lot, very easily teary. We have to remember that a core emotion with depression is anger. So if I'm angry, what happens is anger is the bodyguard for my pain. So it's easier to express anger than it is to be vulnerable. So if I'm angry, then that also is something we need to consider. The danger with anger is that's often, I might be feeling very low, and then and then I kind of start to feel something triggers my rage, and that's when I will act. And then the last thing is what are their life circumstances. So like we were saying earlier, sometimes there might be an underlying depression, but I know for me, when my mom passed away, I became, that is a big one. So I became depressed and suicidal, which is also why I want to do this work, because there is the saying, this too shall pass, and we kind of fob it off.
Yes.
But the reality is, with suicidal thoughts, it does pass, because we can treat. Depression is one of the easiest mood conditions that we can treat with medication and with intensive therapy. So it can pass. We just need to get that person into help, which is your second part of your question. So I think if we're looking at, okay, so I'm a mom of an adolescent, and I'm identifying some of these traits. So there's the recklessness, there's the withdrawal, there's the, maybe even self-harm. Now, remembering self-harm is different to suicide, in that self-harm generally is to alleviate the emotional pain. It's the same, similar goal to suicide, but it's not with the intention of death, because once the pain has been experienced and the blood is seen, then the emotions are translated into physical pain. Yeah. But it could also be an indicator of suicidal thoughts. Whomever interacts with, if we interact with people, we need to be observant. I need to observe you. I need to observe my friends, my family, the kids that I interact with.